Merkabah Scholar Society members, check your emails for the link for the review for the Secret Destiny of America, pages 5 through 20. We're going to review that tonight, which will be Thursday. Make sure you guys check your emails for that link. Also, Never Pay Again members, I sent you guys an email to join Merkabah Scholar Society. It's $18 a month. That link is in the description for anyone who wants to join. It will only be there for this week. So take advantage of it now while you have a chance. $18 a month, that's it. And it comes with everything you see here. So make sure you guys take advantage of it and get in a lot of information. This is where the bulk of everything is going right now. So, stay tuned. But yeah, let's get into this video. So you guys can see the theme basically for the last few videos I was been putting out. So I put out the video about, Wes Huff and Billy Carson. A lot of people didn't really understand what I was talking about, just to get people into the understanding of how research is done. I talked about, the whole empirical research. And I think a lot of people got confused about what I was saying with empirical research as it pertains to the Bible. And you cannot use empirical research, when it comes to the Bible. So that was the point I was trying to make. And when you go and research something in the scientific community, empirical research is what you're going to do, because the gauntlet it goes through to be proven true is a lot. People who are your peers, academia, independent researchers, all kinds of evidence and everything like that. It's a lot involved. You cannot do that with the Bible. It cannot ever go through the scrutiny of empirical research because of what it is, which we're going to get into in this video. But not just that. I want people to understand what this stuff means. Big problem that's happening right now. And a lot of people are just confused because a lot of people really think, and again, I give people a lot of credit. Now, I don't call a person dumb until they prove themselves to be dumb, or I'll allow them to seem as intelligent as they want until I hear the entire argument. And this is what's happening. It's what I'm seeing. And a lot of it has to do with people just regurgitating the same wrong, useless information that's just incorrect. And I see it all the time with so many different things. Bible is no different. So when it comes to research and how research is supposed to be done, there are steps and things that has to show up. And you have to understand when it comes to Christianity, it's completely out the scope of traditional research or any kind of research, because it largely depends on mythologies. It largely depends on faith and belief. There is no way you're going to ever be able to prove the flying fire chariots, Sodom and Gomorrah. You're not going to be able to prove the powers of Elijah and Elisha. You're not going to be able to prove Jesus walking on water. None of that stuff is provable. You're not going to be able to prove the Leviathan. You're not going to be able to prove this whole story of Job. There's so many things you won't be able to prove that people don't understand. Now, to be fair, does that discount the entire book? It brings it into question as far as being able to prove the book as a whole true, right? Usually, if you have a story and you find one thing false or not true within that story, the entire story is bullshit, it's false, because you're basing the rest of it on a false principle, right? So you have to look at the entire story under scrutiny. So we're going to get into this thing because I want people to understand, and it's going to, once again, just destroy and crush any arguments. First, one, you have to understand, and this is the problem right here. A lot of you YouTube scholars and Google scholars, which is why I like to use Google, a lot of you people don't understand what you're reading and what these words actually mean. So understand, when you are reading or doing any research on the Bible and you come across these terms, archaeological evidence, right? I put this on my YouTube. I put this on my Instagram, right? I broke this down on my Instagram. I'll break it down in this video. So when you come across these terms, right? Archaeological evidence, right? When you come across historical evidence or historical, when you come across the whole phrase of historically accurate, right? Archaeological data. Scholars agree, right? Most scholars agree. All these terms, all these phrases, none of it means proven true. Understand, in order for you to come to a conclusion of something being true, you have to have evidence first, right? This is why, you get locked up based on evidence. You go to court, and that's why you have your day in court to see if the evidence is going to hold up to scrutiny and cross-examination, right? That's the whole point of evidence. So, one, you have to study these words. First of all, one, which I'm going to show you in a second, archaeology already tells you we cannot prove the truth or historicity of the Bible. There's no way archaeology can do that. So what you have to understand, no matter what manuscript anybody find, no matter what shards or these, pieces of pottery or what have you, that any of these people find pertaining to archaeology, none of it can ever prove the Bible is true. Because one, you have to understand a part of something that's possible does not complete the whole, right? It's a piece of something that is a question mark. And we don't even know if that piece is true or not. It doesn't prove the entire book. So case in point, people see, piece of papyrus or a shard or a manuscript, and they think because that manuscript is old and that it exists, it somehow proves the entirety of the Bible. It proves the story. And that's not the case. So we're going to get into these things, right? Because they're telling you what it is. So let me go through these. It says, no, the original manuscripts of the Bible do not exist, right? The original manuscripts were lost or destroyed long ago. So understand that. Now here it says, there is no definitive proof of the bodies of any of the apostles. While some locations are traditionally believed to hold their remains, like St. Peter's Basilica for Peter, there is no conclusive archaeological evidence to confirm this, right? And this is for the people who said we have these bodies and what have you, these prophets. We don't have no bodies of nobody in the Bible. You don't have no bodies. There's never been any proof of any of the apostles or any of the disciples of Jesus or anything like that. So it's no proof. There is just speculation, evidence. And in some cases, there is not even evidence, right? So you have to understand that, which is why I gave you this. No, evidence is not the same as proof. While evidence is information that supports a claim, proof is a conclusion reached based on compelling evidence that establishes something as true. Say it again. Proof is a conclusion reached based on compelling evidence that establishes something as true, meaning your evidence has to establish the truth about a specific subject, right? The evidence is going to prove if it's true or false, right? Proof is a higher level of certainty achieved through evidence. Proof is a higher level of certainty achieved through evidence, right? The Bible is not considered a complete historical document by academic historians, but it can be used as a supportive document in conjunction with other historical sources. The Bible's historical accuracy varies as it's not consistent throughout the entire work. And I give you some examples here. Purpose. The Bible's authors wrote to communicate religious or moral lessons, not to be historically accurate. Time period. The Bible's authors wrote about events that happened generations before them. Translation. The Bible has been copied and translated, which can introduce errors. Now, I want you to understand here, Google is not going to always give you exactly what you're looking for. You have to understand how to use Google. You can't just say certain things, but if you know how to word it correctly, you can get where you're looking to get. Because some things you'll say and you know what you mean, but it's not going to give you exactly what the answer you're looking for. So you got to understand that. But in this case, this is stuff that people have been looking for a long time. And this is information that's been around before, you were born, most of you. And yeah, all of us basically. But it's just a compiling of the findings of this information, which is why it is like one of the most trusted sources. But again, where people go to look for the information, and if we was to do a consensus of everybody who's done the research on this is basically the answers we'll get. So just back to my point where people believing that, historically accurate and archaeological evidence and all this means truth, proven. It's not the same thing. As I said, no, archaeological evidence and historically proven evidence are not the same. Though they can complement each other, Archaeology focuses on material remains while history relies on written records and interpretations, and both have limitations and strengths in understanding the past. Go on, it says no. Archaeological, referring to the study of human history and prehistory through material remains, and historically proven, referring to evidence supported by written records, are not the same, as they approach the past using different methods and sources, right? While the term historically accurate and historically proven are related, they aren't entirely interchangeable. Historically accurate implies a representation that aligns with established historical facts, while historically proven suggests a conclusion or event that has been established as true, just like we were saying before, through multiple sources and evidence, right? So, historically accurate. This term describes a representation that is faithful to the known facts and details of a historical period or event. It emphasizes the correctness of the details and the adherence to established historical knowledge. So let me tell you what that means. That means when they're saying that the Bible or parts of the Bible is historically accurate, all it's saying is it is matching up with what it's saying to the time that it's talking about. So when you're describing what a person wears or what the people was eating or what they was doing, that matches up to what we see in history as far as what the people was doing at that time, right? That's all it is. It don't mean what they're saying is true. It just means the actions, the clothing, the food, or what have you matches up with that time period. So it's like if somebody painted the first McDonald's in a painting, right? And we got it today and we seen it. We will look at it and be like, it's historically accurate because it looks exactly like how the McDonald's looked back then. Understand? Real simple, real easy. So historically proven, which it just means it's proven. I mean, don't really got to get into that, but this term suggests that a particular claim or event has been established as true through a rigorous process of historical investigation and corroboration of evidence. It implies a higher degree of certainty or reliability than simply being accurate. Come on, man. And it's just crazy because I really be expecting people to understand this and they don't. And I'm like, I've been trying to figure out what is the argument about. Do you not understand that evidence and proven true are two separate things? And people don't get that. Something that is historically accurate is not the same as something that is proven true, right? Historically accurate simply means, again, it is true to the time period. That's all. It don't mean that everything that happened within that story in the time period is true. Now understand, it says, while archaeology can confirm some historical details and cultural context mentioned in the Bible, it cannot definitively prove the Bible's truthfulness. Again, while archaeology can confirm some historical details and cultural context mentioned in the Bible, it cannot definitively prove the Bible's truthfulness. So, archaeology been telling you this same shit for years, man, and people just don't want to believe it. They don't want to get into it. You can't prove it, and let me explain why. It's very simple. Why archaeology can never prove this. Because one, and this is for all the people who believe we have Jesus' body, right? Or they found Jesus' bones and everything like that. Okay, cool. So he didn't ascend, but his bones remain, but none of the other Israelites did, right? Understand this. If tomorrow we dug up the body that is believed to be Jesus Christ, whose DNA are we going to compare it to prove that it's true? So understand, we would need somebody that predates Jesus, that's in his bloodline, to prove that's him. Or we would have to prove that somebody that exists today goes back to his bloodline. It's impossible. We don't have that. We can't prove that, right? Because even if you found somebody today, you would need somebody from back then to compare it to, right? You can compare it to those bones, but you still would need somebody before Jesus that is proven to be a descendant before him, right? Somebody who came before him, like Mary, or somebody in her known bloodline, right? We will never find those people. So there's no way archaeology could ever prove it. So it's common sense, man. You just got to understand, like, some stuff is just, you got to look at it and say, it's no way we can prove this. Because even, again, if you found writings that Paul wrote and signed his name on and said, it's me, Paul, I wrote this. I'm actually the Paul that was cool with Jesus. You know, Jesus came and saw me. I'm that guy. Even if we found that, right? There's no way to prove that. You can say, oh, well, it's old. It's dated to the time where it's possible that Paul wrote it, but there's no way you could ever prove that without having proof that Paul wrote it. It's no way. One, you got to prove that the man actually existed, and it's not just some dude named Paul, and it's just somebody who wrote something long ago for whatever reason. Like, that doesn't make the entire story true. It just proves that some dude named Paul wrote this. But what about the stuff he's talking about? Can we prove that? You understand? So I can write something today and they find it 10,000 years from now. But in that story, I could be talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And somebody find it fucking 10,000 years from now and supposed to believe that the story about the turtles is true. How would you ever, if it's no data, if it's nothing that exists to even remotely, show what I'm talking about, how would they ever believe that's true? If you understand? This is why archaeology can never prove the truthfulness of the Bible. And they've been telling you that for a long time. And I've been saying for a long time, it's not true. You can't ever prove it true, which is why you have to have faith and belief. This is what I'm talking about. So I say it cannot definitively prove the Bible's truthfulness or divine authorship, as it primarily focuses on material remains and human history, not supernatural events or religious doctrines. So if that's not enough, it says here, no, the Bible cannot be definitively proven true in a scientific sense, as it contains elements of faith and spiritual interpretation, but historical and archaeological evidence supports the existence of many of the people, places mentioned within it, indicating a degree of historical accuracy. Understand, don't get all excited. It just means that it's historically accurate, like I just said. It's just giving more evidence. It's archaeology can give us more evidence to the historical accuracy of the book. That is all. In parts of these texts, however, not all aspects of the Bible can be verified through such means. So now I was talking about empirical research. Again, empirical research is primarily used by scientists, researchers in the social sciences, medical professionals, educators, and individuals in fields like business and public policy, as it relates on observed and measured data to build knowledge based on real world experiences, rather than solely on theory or belief. Essentially, anyone looking to gather data through experimentation or observation to support their claims or hypothesis uses empirical research, which, anything that you're trying to really prove is true, using science or what have you, you're going through the gauntlet of empirical research. There's no way around it. You have to. How else are we going to prove it true? Through a consensus. So when people keep walking around saying, when I say to you guys, when I say the consensus and science, so scientists or researchers agree, this is what I'm talking about. I'm bringing it back to the empirical research, meaning what I'm talking about went through empirical research, and all these researchers agreed upon what I'm talking about.